And welcome back to the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
What I should say was welcome back to episode 102 of the Weekly Tech Rant. You know,
It
it's always a good
is.
thing to. And it is the 1st of September. I cannot believe it. I'm not entirely sure where 2022 has gone, but we are pretty much most of the way through it.
It's Christmas nearly.
Don't you dare say that, man. Don't you dare. Ah, no. In one respect, you're right. Actually, it is nearly Christmas because next week is the Apple Far Out show, which we're going to talk a little bit about in a minute. So it is nearly Christmas. You know, that's a good point,
Yep.
isn't it? So we have a busy show for you this week. We're going to cover everything from, the Apple Far Out. I've just dropped that. Apparently, there is a GPU surplus, which nobody told me about. Intel needs to get some more money. They've run out. We're going to talk about BlackBerry, the movie. Yes, you heard me correctly. BlackBerry, the movie. We got new Meta VR headsets. We've got Twitter versus Mudge, which is going to end badly. And if you don't know who Mudge is, we'll give you the lowdown on that. We're going to follow up on a story from last week as well, which was the Twilio Cloudflare hack. And we've got some gaming news, isn't it, this week about Sony and the PS5?
Not good gaming news, but gaming news.
I didn't specify whether it was good or bad, but
it is
there
news.
You go. It is news indeed. No rumours this week, because no point having a rumour mill when the majority of the rumours are going to be about a product which is going to come out in about 2 weeks' time. So we're going to hold fire on that to see actually what is delivered next week. And then we can talk about what wasn't delivered. Probably a good thing, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Right then, I guess then let's kick things off then. So we have full confirmation. The Apple event is going to be on September the 7th at 10 a.m. Pacific time or about 6 p.m. British time. The Apple Far Out event. So the
invitation came out as soon as we got off the air last week. We literally got off and the email came. It was like, okay, good timing.
I was just going to say to that, it was like, it was pretty much, straight the minute we kind of produced the show, wasn't it? So it is confirmed. Much to I think the surprise of a lot of people that they're going to drop it on a Wednesday. But when you're dropping what already is a pre-recorded show, nothing to worry about, is there?
Oh, exactly.
So the Far Out then, the invitation, the new AR invitation that was dropped then, gave a bit of a fancy sort of kind of galactic, wasn't it? Celestial.
Kind of Apple logos made out of stars, isn't it? So
that's right. So Far Out, what do we reckon then? Because that usually the invitation alludes to some of the features or capabilities that are going to be dropped. Typically, I'm guessing in the iPhone, isn't it? And there are a few theories on what Far Out might mean in this point, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we could have improved zoom, Far Out stuff, be able to zoom in. But I think the more likely one, both are probably likely, but is astrophotography. Maybe the whole thing's made of stars.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I think the astrophotography thing is probably going to be a play on that, especially if like you said, they're going to have higher optical zoom, which would work well. The zoom feature on the camera was already rumored before, wasn't it, with those periscope lenses that we talked about a few months ago?
Yep.
And then also we are potentially looking at, I guess the rumored satellite piece, isn't there?
Yeah, I was looking into this. I said to you the other day, I did not realise the iPhone 13 Pros have the chips in to communicate with satellites. They just haven't launched a service. So I did not realise that there.
Yeah, so let's recap on that really quickly then as kind of, an area to talk about. So the iPhone 13, as you say, supposedly had within its wireless modem, wasn't it, the capability to talk to low... is it ELO or LEO? Sorry, LEO, isn't it? Low Earth orbit satellites. Not for calls, because they haven't got the bandwidth, isn't it? But it was for text communication.
Sending SOS, emergency notifications, that kind of stuff, yeah.
So that never materialized. It was seen quite far-fetched at the time. It wasn't 100% confirmed that the technology was present. As you just said, it's now kind of supposedly is. But the iPhone 14, more rumors have come out, haven't they, around the supposed communication. Also with the company that Apple have apparently been working with as well to have that. And again, it's been said that this, it was one of the rumors. I said we weren't doing rumors tonight. One of the rumors is around the satellite communication piece will allow for texting if you're out of service, isn't it? So I think some of the kind of people are
Yep.
saying, imagine you're hiking in the Utah Badlands or something, and you've got no cell service, but your phone can still communicate with a satellite and do emergency communication.
Yeah.
But you saying that's that's potentially then could come to the 13 as well, then
Well,
potentially.
will Apple roll that back, even though it's got the hardware, or will they launch that on the 14 Pro series and then maybe in a year's time roll it out to every device that has the hardware? I don't know. This is Apple. Just because the hardware's there doesn't necessarily mean they'll use it.
No. So the iPhone 13 has the Qualcomm X60 baseband chip,
Yeah.
which you say Quo mentioned about that, but we never saw anything about that.
Nope.
But apparently, I did see a report. I think it was PC Mag published it, saying that it might not actually be possible just because it's got the baseband chip. It might not be able to support some of the communications because Global Star, who the company that Apple are working with, they use a ground based 5G band, which is N53, and the
Okay.
iPhone 13 modem apparently does not have support for that frequency.
Okay.
So unless it was the 13 use the same chipset, just but can't leverage the capability,
Yeah.
but the 14 will come with the additional hardware to be able to have that communication. I guess that's where we're
Interesting.
looking at.
Because we're also hearing the rumors that the Watch Pro will also have satellite comms, aren't we?
I mean, yeah, that was. I think, yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
I
I
think
didn't want
that's
to go
definitely
down.
more far out.
I mean, how much? I mean, how do you fit all of that into the chassis and how it communicate? Where do you put the antennas? I mean, there's all kinds of, I guess, technological challenges here.
maybe
I
it's
can
maybe
get
it's
it.
in the bands. Maybe
Well,
it's a special. Who knows? I mean, they always had the little connector there, didn't they? So bands could interface with the watch. I don't think I ever saw it be used. I mean, is it
well,
still
no,
there?
that's those like those kind of like a bit like on the iPads, isn't it? That kind of
The
special
pogo
connector.
pins. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Are they
right.
still
Nothing
there?
ever, nothing ever. I don't recall any band take it because I remember some weird rumors initially was like, oh yeah, you won't be able to use third-party bands because the watch will detect it or something, won't it, or rubbish like that. But that never happened.
No, I mean, I can't. No, I can't see any bands there anymore. Any pogo pins? Sorry.
No, maybe they were removed then. I mean, I think definitely that if they bring satellite communication to the phone, emergency comms is probably the way to have it, isn't it? So you can make an
Oh yeah.
emergency call regardless of where you are.
Yeah, and that
That's going to be
falls in
key.
with all the fall detection and that kind of stuff while you're out and about in
Yeah,
the wilderness. So, because does kind of line up with that.
exactly. I think that's probably where more logically it lies. And I guess the same with the watch. If you've got the cellular version of the watch, then
Yeah,
that capability would make sense. I I guess also the ability to do emergency communications. Like a lot of countries are rolling out. So the US has got that, hasn't it? Where they can,
yeah, the emergency notification system. Yeah,
and
like
the
there's an
UK's
earthquake or a
yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
and the UK is rolling that out. I think imminently. I believe that's being
mm.
brought out now. So I think that's probably a possibility. Whether that would be a landmark feature, I don't know. It probably would be because I'm not aware. I mean, I
Not in a commercial phone. I don't know
no.
any
I was
phone with
going to say,
satellite comms.
we were joking the other day, wasn't it, about the old Iridium Satcom phones
Oh
that
yeah,
always
yeah,
showed up in the films, wasn't it? The old black one with the flip up antenna or big
that's
stubby
the
antenna,
one.
wasn't it? I can just see in Jurassic Park now. It's Jurassic Park 3, isn't it? And then
Yep.
you can hear it ringing in the dinosaur car.
Get
Where's the
service
phone?
anywhere.
Oh, but yeah, definitely those probably could be the features I think that are likely to show up. And the far out piece, as you say, astrophotography, the zooming, maybe satellite communication is probably going to be the piece there. We're also seeing, strong rumors now. Well, more than rumors, I think really strong indication of what the design factor could be for the pill notch or the notch
Yep.
or the pill hole, isn't it now? The
Yeah.
reason I say they're not necessarily rumors is more the fact that some of the case manufacturers, haven't they, and some of the molds have leaked
Yep.
on that shape as well. And do you know what it made me think of? It looks similar to my Pixel 6 that's here. Very similar to the Pixel 6.
Does it?
But the render you said to me about was the one, wasn't it, earlier today, where
Oh
it
yeah.
had the notifications, had in the middle of it, like a pill shape, and it had the
Yep.
green and the red or orange notification lights to say whether your phone or your camera or your microphone's in use, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it's got a bar and a dot, and there's a gap in
Yeah.
between, which they could fill with stuff. But it looks like when it's turned on, that'll be black in between the dash and the dot, and they'll use that to have some kind of notification, like you mentioned, if the microphone's on, if the camera's on, just small little dots of light.
Yeah,
So I think it's a good thing.
it is, which today are shown at the top right of the screen, just above in the battery area, aren't they? You have the
They're
little
very
indicator
hard to
there.
tell, and they don't stand out, do they? From depending on your wallpaper color or the app you're in. So these
No,
would stand
especially
out because it's definite black bits. It would be more obvious.
yeah, exactly. So those, I think they need to be more transparent on that because that's partly all around the whole privacy thing, isn't it? And ensuring that you're
Yeah,
aware of what's happening with your phone and any applications that are communicating when they shouldn't be. So no,
yeah.
yeah. But and then the other weird, I guess, God, yeah, I'm so sorry. We should have started a rumor
We've
mill.
gone down the room a corner, haven't we?
Was the naming? There's rumors. There is a rumor that has come out that Apple are
Yeah.
planning to drop the Pro name in favor of the original Plus um,
No,
terminology,
no, I
wasn't it?
thought that was just plus instead of
Oh, Pro
max.
Plus
But
was the
so for
Pro
the
Plus. Sorry, the
non-pro
Max.
model, so the 14, the large 14, is not going to be a 14 max. It's going to be a 14 plus.
That's it. Sorry, and it was the sorry. That was it. It was the Max designator. Excuse me.
Yeah,
So yes, today we've had we've got the 14 Pro Max, the 13 Pro Max, and but could be the 14 Pro Plus. Not to be confused with some medicinal dietary supplement supplications that Apple could sue for
oh yeah.
trademark. But that's a
Mhm.
whole different story. But no, so we will be back next week, though. Just to be clear on that, next week's show will be the Apple special. So we will be back with all of the updates from the Apple event. Whatever's released, pretty much guaranteed we're going to have iPhone 14, various models, the Watch Series 8, and hoping for that ruggedized one. Fingers crossed.
Yep.
I will be upgrading this year, so which I do know. To be honest with you, I did hesitate about. I did the other day. It's going to have to be compelling. The Watch 8
Yep.
really is going to have to be compelling
Well, I've
to
still
do
got the
that.
4, so there's enough of a change and new sensors in that to make it compelling.
Oh, for you there is
Um,
definitely.
but you know what? The 4 still just works. Do I need any extra? I don't know if I will or not. I'll
Well, I
definitely be
told
getting
you.
the 14 Pro Max, but whether I get a new watch, I don't know.
Well, I told you. I've got a Series 6 here, lightly used that you can have. One careful owner. Cough,
Ah,
cough.
nice, nice. Careful, I've seen your phone.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about it. I'm not. It's weird. All of a sudden, those scratches have come from nowhere. Anyway, so
Right,
moving on
moving
then.
on
Nvidia 4090 rumors. What's this? More rumors?
to the kitchen. Jensen
Uh,
Huang's kitchen, actually. Yeah. Apparently, during a recent earnings call, he basically said they will announce the 4000 series at September's GTC, which is planned for between the 19th and 22nd of September this month. So
all to go, isn't it?
I'd expect it in the keynote, obviously. But yeah, this is the new Lovelace one, which is expected to kind of be more powerful in every way, more power, GPU power, and more power consumption. But the rumor is, though, you're only going to get the 4090 launch this year, and you're not going to see the rest of the range until next year.
So unless you've got deep pockets, don't think about anything.
Exactly. Buy yourself a 3000 series instead.
Oh yeah, I do want. I mean, 4090 would be great. You've got to have deep pockets though to buy first gen, haven't you? I think in that sense.
Yeah, the 4090 is going to be 11, 1200 at least, I imagine. But retail pricing and not scalper pricing.
True, but given that we will likely see the AMD cards not long after,
Yep,
it's probably good. And again, who's going to be first to market? That's the key, isn't it?
exactly. And we'll talk a lot more about the AMD stuff because they did actually just do their announcement. Was it yesterday or the day before? Well, then the
Yeah,
official announcement, new 7000 series. So we'll catch up with that. Not next week's the Apple event, but the week after we'll have a big part on that, and we can talk more in depth about the new CPUs and potential GPUs.
that's right. As you said there, they've got their 27th of September event. So, oh no, sorry, the Ryzen 7000 launches on the 27th of September.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
definitely a lot to talk about then.
Hopefully,
Awesome.
we'll have more, maybe even some reviews before our next show on that.
I think that's good. You know what? I'm pretty much decided now. I think I'm going to go AMD.
Everything they announced looked very, very
It
good.
does, and it looks
Even some of them had a price reduction. Unheard
well.
of.
I'd say it looks affordable. Intel, I mean, yeah, Intel, I think, are going to pull out the bag. We'll talk a
Of
bit more
course,
about
they'll
Intel in a
have
bit.
their Raptor Lake in the next month or so. October, I think, for Raptor Lake.
But given it requires a small nuclear power station to be installed next to your house,
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure that's where I want to be going down that road. But anyway,
yeah,
so 4090 then we're likely
yep,
to have that update then a couple of weeks time.
exactly.
Um, I think it is a step forward in the right direction. We've seen some of those early leaked performance reviews, haven't we, of them?
Yeah, like
And
a
as
4060 beating a 3080.
Yeah, so definitely performance in there as well.
Yeah,
It will. The worry though, from I guess in Nvidia's point of view, is going to be power efficiency that AMD I think are going to bring to the party.
they're
That's the
gonna
thing.
AMD are gonna walk all over them with power efficiency.
That's the key thing here, isn't it? And pricing is going to be interesting, and that's the key as well. Is what
Yeah, bang
where
for
will it
buck.
where's it going to fall given the current economic climate, given inflation, given the whole supply chain issues. Are we going to see a massive hike in pricing? You know,
I mean, if they
that's
pulled an AMD and bought them out at the same price as the current 3000 series, obviously RRP, then that would be very compelling.
well, it is, and kind of segueing into our next conversation point is, there was a massive problem the last couple of years around getting hands on a GPU, wasn't there?
Yep,
Because of the whole crypto mining piece, the supply
which
shortage.
is thankfully coming to an end on more or less on
Well, that's so
September.
yeah, as I say, so
This month, at some
pricing.
point, when Ethereum switch over from proof of work to proof of stake, which basically
Well,
negates the need of a GPU.
it does, and that's the thing, is it? The pricing has been massively hyped by then, so you'd want to see that come down. But that point, as you say, that so the GPU kind of, I guess, shortage is apparently over, then, isn't it? According to Nvidia
Well,
themselves on
according
that
to
point.
Nvidia, again on their earnings call, they're currently dealing with problems of excess inventory, and they're looking to one reduce GPUs going to board manufacturers, as well as, and this is a very fancy way of saying price cut, institute programs to price position our current products to prepare for next generation products. So yeah, they're going to slash the price of their 3000 series.
Well, I mean, if they drop I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd have a 3090 quite happily. I think that would do a
If you
good
get
job.
3090 up for 500 quid, then
Yeah,
sold.
I would take that. I'd live with that problem.
I'd upgrade
You know,
now until I can afford a 4000.
I was going to say, I mean, I'm still running that 2070 Super.
That'd
So
be a lovely upgrade.
a 3090 would be great. I mean, DCS wouldn't take any notice of it, but
No, of course not.
everything else would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, oh, yeah, exactly.
So what are they saying then, that they are? So they're going to reduce the number of GPUs to manufacturers. Is that the current stocks, the current i series, or are they going
Yeah, that's
to
the current
reduce?
series. There's no point pumping for the 3000 series when the 4000 is due out. So yeah, reduce the number of 3000 series GPU chips and stuff going to board manufacturers, and obviously cut the price of those chips as well. So I presume they'll do buybacks or give the manufacturers money to reduce their pricing just to clear that inventory out.
Maybe you're right. Maybe this could be then perhaps just to bite the bullet and have a generation gap on the GPU and have up to date CPU and RAM. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
you're probably not going to look to buy until next year anyway, so you'll have a better picture at that point.
Though, yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. But planning starts now. Once I know what 7000 series pricing is, and that
Yep.
kind of side of it, and the board pricing, 'cause the motherboard is going to probably be one of the
The
bigger
motherboard's
expenditure on
going to
that.
cost you a good 300 quid, I
You know,
imagine.
and I'm probably going to have to go DDR5
Well,
as
you want
well.
DDR5 only, so you'll have
Well,
to, yeah.
yeah. So that's going to be the point, isn't it, as well? So actually, potentially saving some money on a GPU wouldn't be a
Exactly,
bad
yeah.
thing.
Well, I
But
don't know
yeah,
what your power supply is, but you might need a new one of those.
I think it's 600 watts, so probably definitely have to be
Probably
upgraded.
might bump that up, yeah. Time to start planning.
Well, time to start planning indeed, and as you say, the GPU surplus is there, so manufacturing clearly is ramping up. Intel themselves, then, who we've been talking about for several months now, around
Yep.
their fab plans to increase the amount of fabs they
IDM
have.
2.0.
That's it. National across their national fabs in the US, and also in other countries, including Ireland, and in Europe as well, elsewhere. But they seem to have, well, either run out of money,
Yeah, I
or
wasn't expecting this from Intel.
they've decided to go ahead. So Intel have signed a deal, haven't they, with Brookfield to have a joint ownership of the new fabs in
Yeah.
the US at least. I
Yeah,
don't know
so
if that
they've,
includes the one in Ireland, but at least the ones in the US.
yeah,
So
the Arizona one, isn't it?
yeah, Fab 52 and 62. So Intel are going to be putting in 15 billion for a 49%. Sorry,
No,
they're going to
Brookfield.
have Brookfield, excuse me, are putting in 15 billion to take a 49% stake in the project, and Intel will have a 51% ownership of it.
Yeah.
And they're going to use that apparently with other fabs in the future.
Yeah, it's part of what they call it a semiconductor co-investment program, or SKIP. So this won't be the last we hear from teaming up with other kind of asset management companies.
No, and you're right. It was a surprise given the push. I wonder as well. Like I say, Intel have leveraged a lot here, haven't they, with
Oh
this?
yeah, yeah.
And obviously there's been a lot of talk of investment. Money doesn't come. They can't print money despite
Nope.
the cost of their
And doing
chips.
it in the US, it's going to be a lot more expensive than doing it in Taiwan or China.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that the government have obviously given a lot of handouts, but that's not just free cash on the table, is it? There's a
No.
lot of things going on with that around that Chips Act, and I wonder whether or not part of that Chips Act was to not not reduce a monopoly, but to ensure that you know if Intel had a problem or something happened, their fab doesn't go down the drain with them, so to speak.
No, that investment company could take over and bring in other partners, and yeah.
Yeah, and the same if you look at it before, we had Global Foundries, didn't we? So Global Foundries was a co-ownership with AMD, and what's the other company? I think I
Well,
can't
it
remember.
was it was AMD originally, and AMD
Well,
spun out their own fabs into Global Foundry with you're right. I can't remember who the other person is now, but yeah.
but they then wasn't it? They bought out AMD, didn't they? I think wasn't it? And that was point. So that's not a full ownership there again. But running a fab isn't cheap. They're not small things. They're massive projects to build. It's the equipment inside. It takes a long time to prep that. We've talked about it before of how that works.
Mm.
Somebody's got to pay for that. And Intel, obviously, like I say, they don't have a bottomless McScrooge, pot of money there. And I think Pat Gelsinger is betting the house on this massively. It has to be a
Yeah.
success. They have to have these up and running soon. They've got to appease the shareholders. They've got to appease the government. And the reality is, as you say, we've got to get out of Taiwan. Not because obviously we don't want to do business in Taiwan, but that is a knife edge. That is going to happen at some
The
point in the
last couple of
future.
years have shown problems of having all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, something is, yeah. And so we're playing a forecast here. Will people learn from their mistakes? Ask me that question in a few years' time. I don't think they will, realistically, but it's a good
No,
start. It's a good
yeah,
start, isn't it?
it is.
But I've not heard of Brookfield before. Have you come across some asset management? Do you
No,
know who
I
they
haven't.
are? I
No,
mean,
no,
it's not a
not at
company that
all.
I did do a quick search for them earlier, and they don't. They're not fly the night, flash in the pan. They apparently they manage $750 billion of assets,
Wowza. Yeah,
um, over 30 countries and
Canadian
2,000.
company.
Yeah, and they do a lot. Mainly, it does appear to be a lot of it's in infrastructure, in renewable power. Interesting, and then infrastructure services as well, and business services. So it's a very diverse portfolio, and a lot of money there. A lot of money. So, yeah, not somebody clearly that Intel would have taken a risk with. These people have got experience in this market, and I wonder whether or not having some of that um, infrastructure piece, especially the power side of things and renewable
Yeah,
energy, will maybe come into play, perhaps in some of the fab designs and the power aspects of it.
could well do. So,
So,
talking of Canadian companies. Well, again, I don't, when I sent this to you, I did not see this coming.
I
So,
thought
I
this
mean,
was a joke.
so did I. So we've had a number of TV series or films based on what tech companies before, haven't we? We had We Crashed recently, based on was it Adam Newman and WeWork, and then we had The Dropout based on Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, and of course we had The Social Network based on Zuckerberg's Facebook. But
Yeah.
now we are
Well, don't
getting
forget we had the Jobs film as well.
oh, we did have the Jobs film. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But none of it compares to the BlackBerry Stroke Research in Motion film.
I,
I
I mean,
don't know what this film's going to really contain.
no,
It's the
and
rise and fall of BlackBerry, isn't it? So, in fact, they've wrapped up production on this already. So, it's due out this year, I think.
it is, isn't it? And it's apparently it's based on a book, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
based on a book, and the film is titled Blackberry, and it
Mm.
basically talks about the story of how Blackberry, as it previously was known, which was just Research in Motion,
Yep.
how they cornered the market, didn't they?
Yep.
As being the device of choice, for the business, and had that and held that, ubiquitous position of being the device that everybody wanted to use, whether you were a government business, everybody had BlackBerry. They controlled that communication piece, but how that downfall is basically they didn't foresee Apple and Google coming into, and Samsung, I should
Yeah.
say, coming into the marketplace, and cannibalizing their market, and also a lot around the legal disputes they had, wasn't it? The challenges that they had there as well. Um,
Yeah.
the book was a 2015 book written by Jackie McNish and Sean Silkoff, called Losing the Signal, The Untold Story Behind the Extraordinary Rise and Spectacular Fall of BlackBerry, which apparently they were reporters from a Canadian newspaper called the Globe and Mail.
Mm.
I'm gonna pick up a copy of this book. It sounds quite interesting.
I'm just
BlackBerry
going to watch the film.
BlackBerry is uh,
It's an interesting company,
it is
especially
yeah,
nowadays.
yeah. Given their position, so as we know, BlackBerry founded in the device market. If you've been living under a rock, or you're not old enough to really know where BlackBerry came from, following the meteoric rise of Nokia as the mobile giant in the late 90s and early 2000s, wasn't it? Nokia
Yep.
became the established de facto mobile manufacturer. BlackBerry, on the other hand, developed the BlackBerry handset, didn't they? Which, with its QWERTY
Yep.
keyboard,
Yep.
messaging capabilities, the ability to have your email in
BlackBerry
your pocket.
Messenger. Yep.
Yeah, at a time when laptops were still pretty chunky, weren't they? Let's be fair.
No, it's just a tad. I mean,
Um,
and they invented the industry that me and you spent so long in. They invented mobile device management because you
I
had
just yeah,
the BES server, BlackBerry Enterprise server,
that's it. They
long
had the whole
before Apple and Google did device management.
yeah. So they was a company that came out of nowhere. They had this handset. They controlled the software at a very Apple point of view, didn't they? They had
Yeah,
the
yeah, the
software, they
controls
had the
entire
hardware,
stack.
but they had the communication stack as well alongside that. And if you were a consumer, you had a Nokia, and if you were a business person, or even any form of non-consumer activity, you had a BlackBerry. And
Yeah,
they were everywhere. They were in the films. They sports people had them and that, but they didn't foresee Apple or any of the big players coming along, and saw it. And
it
it
just
was a
didn't take them
joke.
seriously, did they? Until it
No,
was
not
too
at
late.
all. And you're right. They didn't take it seriously. They didn't foresee the marketplace, and they floundered. And the hardware part of it was eventually sold off, wasn't it? About, I want to say, about 10 years ago, I think, wasn't it?
To
Maybe slightly less than that.
TCL, TCL.
Yeah, who bought the brand names, didn't they, of the BlackBerry handset,
Yeah,
to do that, and BlackBerry rebranded themselves from Research in Motion RIM to BlackBerry. And they made several acquisitions to pivot themselves as a security company. Cylance being one of the big ones,
yeah.
who were one of the early AI ML
QNX.
QNX for automotive. So that's the other bit that I think not a lot of people are fully aware of or appreciate is BlackBerry. Perhaps one of BlackBerry's largest sources of income is a QNX platform, which is licensed to many automotive manufacturers, isn't it?
It
For
is, yeah.
the in-car entertainment systems, the controlling the vehicle, and that is a big cash cow for them.
But you can even argue
Today,
now the entertainment part has been taken over by CarPlay and
well,
Android Auto,
they have recently signed a
especially
very
the new CarPlay.
they have, but they still have signed some big deals. I think recently with I want to say it was Volkswagen Group,
Okay,
to do that. Yeah, so this it is still there. But I agree with you.
but does
Um,
anyone go out and say, "I want the latest QNX in-car entertainment in my car"? No, they go along and say, "I don't really care what the in-car entertainment is.
yeah,
It's
but
going to be rubbish.
It's not just that though. So
Do I
QNX,
get a CarPlay?"
yeah, but QNX also does things like
Yeah, it
parking
does more. It
sensors,
does
camera.
exactly.
Yeah,
It does all that. Yeah,
and I think a lot of these platforms, Apple CarPlay is built on top of it.
yeah,
So
it is
QNX is still there, but CarPlay, as you say, does that. But you're right, the new version, CarPlay 2.0, certainly is stepping into
to
that
be
market that
replacing all of
BlackBerry
that.
operate.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think to see the film here, to see how the downfall of it, where they're going, and realistically where they're not going, probably is the reality of it. I, my vision is that probably in 5 years' time, BlackBerry will cease to exist in the company that you know it today. I would imagine the cybersecurity and the automotive arms will split.
yeah, they'll
That's
be
my
spun off.
guess. which is a shame because the legacy of such a proud company to be where it is today is not good. BlackBerry shares are not high. I mean, at one point, I think today their market cap is just shy of 4 billion.
Hmm.
With
That's a big drop.
shares trading less than $6.
Wowza.
Yeah. Um, and shares, that. And at one point, they were I think was it one of the world's fastest rising companies. I think they were, was it? They had one point, they were
Oh
the
yeah.
they owned the market. They were, high cash flow company, and yeah, no today. So this film then, BlackBerry. When do we know? Do we have any idea of when it's released, or what's there? Is there
We don't.
a release
Just that
date
they've
on
wrapped
that?
up production now. So, but no, we don't have a date, unfortunately. I think I've heard something about this year, but when I'm not sure.
But TCL, just to come back to the point, TCL don't make those phones anymore, do they?
No, I think they lost the license to it, didn't they?
Yes, somebody isn't. I think another company didn't another company buy them and then didn't do anything with them. I think it was.
Could
Yeah,
be.
I think another company licensed it, but then again didn't do anything at all.
Oh,
So yeah, interesting. But the book, as I say, was published 2015, so it won't tell the story of some of the other security aspects that happened in the last few years, but it
yep.
will tell the big story of how they went from mobile giant to mobile midget. That's probably I should have said that. I apologize. That wasn't meant to be a non-inclusive, but yes, a minnow in the mobile world. So yeah, let's report out. I suspect it'll probably go straight to streaming.
Yeah, this is not come out of the cinema.
No, not
No.
at all, not at all. Awesome, mate. So, dear God, no, not more meta news, please. So Zuckerberg
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, so he was on a podcast with Joe Rogan late last week, I think it was, and they were discussing
Yep,
VR at the beginning of it. He's
Joe
mentioned
Rogan, really?
yeah, I know. So I haven't listened to the podcast; I only read the news on it. So he mentioned that the next virtual reality headset will be announced at their annual Connect event, which is October, I believe. He then goes on to discuss things like eye and facial tracking features, which basically leads us to believe this is going to be this Project Cambria headset that they teased last November and that Quo leaked specs for back in April. So, no, he didn't mention a price or anything, but I imagine it's going to be a tad more expensive than the Quest 2. This is very much a prosumer or pro headset.
And as we kind of, I think we were saying, this is likely to be the Project Cambria
It
that
is,
we've
yep.
heard so much about, and also a very different design to the existing Quest as well, isn't it? A much smaller, almost HoloLens style shape. I think some of the kind of supposed
Yeah, I think
design on it.
they call them pancake lenses rather than Fresnel
Yeah.
lenses, which allows you to have a flatter designed headset. Yeah,
So the project, yeah, Project Cranberry. I think we talked about that way back in early part of the year, wasn't
it
it? I think
was April, I think, when we spoke with Quo, and I think
that's it.
they mentioned it last November, didn't they? They hinted it and gave out a quick CGI 15-second trailer, but didn't really tell us anything. But yeah, Quo
No,
came out with some bits and pieces.
and if I recall, Cambria also includes this presence platform, doesn't it? Where the other thing is you have full pass-through content. So today, Quest headsets do a very. I mean, I've got it on mine. The cameras. I
Yeah,
think you've got it in yours.
I've
The
got the
grey.
Quest 2. They're a bit better, but it's still grey. It's still a
Yeah, you
grey
can't say that.
pass
These
through.
are
Yeah,
apparently going to be full color pass-through, isn't it?
they
To be
are.
able to interact with the world around you. So you get that, those increased high resolution, the sensors, that all AR piece I said there as well. But pricing, I don't know. I can't remember. We usually say, we haven't kind of we anticipate higher pricing, but we haven't got any
Yeah.
idea of what that
I
could
think
look
what we're
like.
hearing, they're going to be like a pair of mini LED panels, over 2K for each of the panels. So, along with the eye tracking, the facial expression tracking. So, there's going to be a lot of sensors in here. So, I don't know what we're going to think here. I reckon you're looking at least $800 easily. I mean, the Quest 2 is down at what, $400, depending on the size of the onboard storage. I reckon we're going to be looking at least double, if not more. Maybe looking at is it the Valve? What's Valve's one's called?
Oh, the index. No, not index.
The Index. Yeah, it's the
Index.
Index.
Yeah,
Yeah, Valve Index.
yeah,
Maybe that kind of price. That's
yeah,
over 1,000, isn't it?
yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you do pay bigger bucks for the high end capabilities, and they
And they were
still and
obviously subsidizing the Quest 2, weren't they?
Well, they do, and the other thing is, I mean, that index is still they still hold their money.
They do.
They're still holding their money, which is that's the problem I think in VR world, isn't it? Like a lot of things right now, second hand is still still much applying the place to be because new
Yeah,
stock is few and far between. So
that's the
okay,
one.
so yeah, I'd be interested to see what this comes out with. The videos that are, oh, I hate to say this, the videos that were shown a little while ago with Zook, kind of demoing it, weren't they? Of kind of blurred out and weird rubbish. I don't know. I still I don't get the metaverse.
They
It
got
just
panned for that, didn't they? The videos they released in the metaverse, they got absolutely panned about the
well,
graphics and how
it just
cartoony it looked. Oh, how
it ju-
terrible it looked, really.
it
So
looks like
they've gone
something out
back
of
to the
20.
drawing board.
Yeah, well, it looks like something out of 2007 for God's sake.
Yeah, it
You
was
know,
pretty terrible. So
second
yeah.
I had one podcast I was listening to say that it reminded them of Second Life, but even Second Life looks slightly better. You know,
Oh dear, oh dear. Don't give him ideas. He'll sell you plots of land
yeah,
in
that
his
never.
metaverse.
Does Second Life does that still exist?
No idea. I mean, I never looked in it to begin with, so I couldn't possibly tell you.
I'm gonna have to. Do you know what? I'm gonna have to ask my Google. Where's Google? Second Life status. It is up. It exists.
Wow.
The current state, yeah, it's up and running. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. Okay, then moving on then to something slightly more, I guess, serious to this. So there has been a new whistleblower has come forward who worked at Twitter
Yeah.
to talk about the security practices at the
Or
company or
lack
lack
of.
of. Yes, lack of. However, this whistleblower is not just anybody. This whistleblower is Peter Mudge Zatko, who, if you're not familiar who he is, well, he was the former chief of security for Twitter, who'd not been with the company that long actually at all. But
No.
Mudge has been around a lot longer within the security, the infosec world himself. If you are of a certain age, you may remember the Loft LOPHT group, who were one of the earliest hacker. I think collectives is the right word, isn't it? Loft Heavy
Yeah.
Industries is what they were called. They were one of the first groups to come together to look at the challenges of what time was real cybersecurity in anything before it was called cybersecurity. And there was a group of them that also were the first hackers to testify in front of Congress in 1998 on what was called the weak computer security in government. And they also made history by testifying using their handles. So there were people like Mudge, Kingpin, Weld Pond, John Tan, also Space Rogue. Space Rogue is another one of the guys. He works at IBM today as well. And these guys are legendary in the market. Much was also part of the Cult of the Dead Cow
He was, yeah.
hacking group, which which was been around since the early 80s, I should say. And as I was saying to you as we were in the preamble on the show, is I remember the Cult of the Dead Cow group quite heavily in the late 90s when I was getting into IT, and their particular early 2000s when they had the back orifice.
Yeah.
The back orifice program.
Yeah,
So back
yeah.
orifice, which was just to kind of context this, it's a remote administration tool, which was designed to allow somebody to remote into a Microsoft Windows server operating system, and it was a play on Microsoft's own back office software, which does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yep.
They released an update to called Back Office 2000 BO2K, which came out in '99. That was the one I remember actually using, and it worked with Windows 95, 98, and it also then the original was 95, 98. BO2K worked with NT in 2000, which we used it on. It was interesting. There was some interesting products there, but yeah,
But he was
not
also
so.
at DARPA, wasn't he?
He was at DARPA, yeah. So Mudge,
Yeah.
Mudge has been around. Mudge has gone on to have several high-profile roles across there. As you say, he was with DARPA. He worked in several parts of the government in defence, cyber think tanks. He's worked at other companies as well as an advisor, and obviously he's published several papers as well. So with Twitter, then he was hired. I think it was 2020, if I recall, by
Yeah.
Jack Dorsey, who was the CEO at the time. After they'd had a major hack, wasn't it? Do you remember that hack in July 20,
Yeah.
where several high-profile accounts got then? And then of January this year, he was let go.
He was indeed.
which
Yeah.
was a bit of a puzzle, wasn't it? And I think that's where I think I'll let you pick up the story there a little bit on what apparently happened
Yeah,
with him.
well, he was allegedly fired for ineffective leadership and poor performance, but I think this is kind of them just trying to, I suppose, not badmouth him, discredit him, but
It's to say it's a usual tactic though, isn't it? When
it is. But yeah, was it last week? He basically did a lengthy whistleblower complaint to the who was it? Who did he put it up to? To the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Department of Justice, and Federal Trade Commission, where he kind of accuses the company of violating the terms it agreed to when it settled the privacy dispute with the FTC back in 2011. He says the company has extreme egregious deficiencies when it comes to defending the website against attacks. He says half of Twitter's servers are running out of date and vulnerable software. That thousands of employees still have wide-ranging internal access to core company software, which has previously led to that huge breach in 2020. He's also accused Twitter of prioritizing user growth over reducing spam by distributing bonuses tied to increasing number of daily users. The company isn't giving out any bonuses directly tied to reducing spam. But yeah, he's now being called on to testify at the Senate, hasn't he? In a Senate hearing on September the 13th about Twitter's security practices or lack of. So tune in on September the 13th for that one.
it is, and one of the other interesting facts is that one of the things that Zacko wanted to know was apparently how many bots they had, wasn't it, across the platform, not from a monetary perspective, but from a security point of view.
Yep.
And that now has been made public, and he's been subpoenaed by Musk in his court case with Twitter. You know that, so he's going to have to testify there as well. Look, I granted, we don't know the full facts here because the testification has happened. But given the man's background, given the man's integrity and what he is, his history here, I'm inclined to side with him on what his statement is. I can't see a man of his, character wanting to go public and not have the grounds to back that up. And given all of the bad press that Twitter are having at the minute with the Musk situation, you can see why they want to brush this under the carpet. I mean, he's been represented by a non-profit called Whistleblower Aid, who are providing his his legal aid and support that. As you say, Twitter themselves have said, that he apparently was riddled with inaccuracies, wasn't it? That's what he said, wasn't it? Which he just
was, yeah.
What and he appears to be now opportunely seeking to inflict harm on Twitter, its customers, and its shareholders. I don't get it. He's got nothing to gain here by dragging them in the dirt. Well, quite frankly, Twitter are already in the dirt with Musk, aren't they? There's nothing for him to gain by doing this, but beyond actually showcasing some what clearly are serious security issues of this company. And I just, this is not going to be a particularly pleasant conversation, I feel, for anybody at that hearing.
No.
I mean, the worry, I think, from the government's point of view, isn't it, is that could foreign bad actors, gain access to Twitter, given who use it? Could they infiltrate the company to gain data on that? Look at the amount of government serves said, let's just take a step back to the Trump, administration that ruled, that governed America via Twitter for 4 years.
Oh yeah.
It just seems to be a thing. And the other thing to be noted about the Senate hearing that's going to happen is that both sides of the House are supporting this in terms of the claims. So, this could lead to additional security legislation in the cybersecurity space, which is something that I think has been on the cards for a while now, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the actual statement about the Senate hearing, it was by committee chair, Senator Dick Durbin. He basically says, the allegations of the allegations of widespread security failures and foreign state actor interference at Twitter raise serious concerns. If these claims are accurate, they may show dangerous data privacy and security risks for Twitter users around the world. Hence why they've called this hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we will once that's been published, we'll report back on that. We'll have an update in a following show. Perfect. All right then. So before we get to the gaming news, then we talked about this. I think it was last week, wasn't it? We talked about the Twilio. Was it last
2 weeks
week?
ago. 2 weeks ago.
God, time flies when you're having fun. So 2 weeks ago we talked about the Twilio and Cloudflare phishing attack.
We did,
which one of those two companies fared very badly, didn't they? In that around this, and this
very badly.
this is around the 2FA verification, or smishing attack is probably the right way to
Yeah,
describe it, isn't it? It's
it
a
is.
smishing
Yeah.
attack. And more information has come out now on actually how bad it has, isn't it? Or how bad it was, excuse
Yeah.
me. My English was terrible there. How bad it was.
It still is, I think. So yeah, this is by a
Thanks.
security firm group. No, I mean it's still a serious problem, not your English. So a report, yeah, the security firm Group IB published on Thursday. Basically, they've done an investigation on behalf of one of its own customers, and this has revealed a much larger campaign that this is tied in with, and
That's
it's a great
brilliantly
name.
named.
They've dubbed it Octopus, so after Okta, the identity people.
Oh,
And it basically used the same technique over the past 6 months to target kind of 130 organizations and successfully fish, well, nearly 10,000 credentials. So basically, yeah, it all starts off. They register these domains. You know, they've been less than a couple of hours old, and use those to send uh, SMS or emails or whatever communication to their victims that make it look like they're clicking internal targets. And, you know, a lot of these domains have things like SSO or VPN or MFA or help in their domain names. You know, they could say something like your password is expired. Click this one that says help dot whatever your domain to reset it, and they then fish you and grab your credentials. And once they've done that, they can then log into your systems, traverse the network, and start gaining access to your corporate data. Yeah, so not great, but they announced this, and actually Okta themselves have come forward to say they are among one of the companies that's become a victim of this.
interesting. Interesting.
Hmm.
And they've said
This
that
is
because they, like you said, and the attack chain is relatively simple, isn't it? Because as you say, it's
general
just a case
phishing,
of
yeah, but a lot of people are falling for this,
it's just a
and it
case of targeting
hmm,
very simple.
seems to be bypassing a lot of checks and stuff. It does. It annoys me because there are bits out there to prevent this. Very simple bits. So I used to my previous role at a company. It was a DNS company, and they had a layer for DNS security. And one of the things you generally do, or should be doing in security, is not allowing your clients to speak to domain names that are younger than maybe 24 hours or 48 hours, just because they're
Yeah,
generally spun up using DGAs to bypass these defenses. You know, they're brand new domains, they have no reputation attached to them because they're hours old. So immediately you should just not allow your clients to communicate with us. And it's one of those products we sold. It was very, very effective. Uh, but it seems like a lot of companies aren't doing the basics here. You know, if that had
no,
been in place at Twilio or any of these other companies, this phishing
they,
wouldn't have worked. Yes, someone may have clicked it, but it would have just gone to a dead domain. Nothing would have popped up.
no, you're right, and I think some good pointers here is that you need to stop using SMS for authentication and only
Yeah, and that's
use
always been one. It's if you have to do two-factor authentication,
use an
SMS
app.
is the
Yeah,
very last thing you should be using because it's
use
easy to intercept.
you either use the authenticator apps, or use
Or
something like
hard
a hardware
tokens.
key, like the YubiKey and that. And again, I think
Hmm.
it also comes down to education of your teams and staff. you know
Yeah,
Verify URLs, look how to spot when something is difficult, and if it's unknown, it's suspicious, isn't it? That's the way to treat it. If it
yeah,
if it isn't there. But you're right, and I guess the old adage is, a lot of people are busy. A lot of general staff perhaps don't have the awareness to spot the URL inaccuracies. And when you point it out, oh yeah, I didn't see there was a small dash there or something.
yeah.
It's hard to do that. But you're right. Remove SMS is the first thing. Get rid of SMS as that part of that chain. And again, as you say, from a DNS perspective, yeah, if it's that young, there's a very good reason it probably doesn't exist unless you can validate
And
it,
you're
isn't
not
it?
really going to lose access to legitimate websites because legitimate websites don't just buy their domain at the last second to
No,
put the
it's
new
been
website
around a
up.
while.
It's been
Yeah,
bought 6 months, 8 months in advance while they build the website and test it.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I even do this with my home network. I block anything that's less than 48 hours old, just because. I mean, I'm not likely to be targeted, but why not put that in place? It was trivial to do.
No, it's a very it's a very good thing to have there. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely this is a big hack, and you're right. That IB group of there's a very good write up on it on, as you
There
say,
is.
the Octopus hack, which I think is a great name. Great name. So what we're saying now is that 130 organizations, close to
Yeah,
10,000 credentials,
credentials.
and they themselves, as you what was it? What did you say? I think you said only 170, 160 something
Yeah,
domains that they
169
use.
unique domains, including things with SSO, VPN, MFA in the domain name.
And then what they just, one of the other things was that was discovered that there was a Telegram channel, wasn't it, that they were using to bypass the 2FAs.
Yeah,
So when the target had entered their credentials into the fake sites, it was pushed straight over to Telegram, wasn't it? Then they could enter
yeah,
it to the real site.
yeah.
Brilliant, very very simply done. Of course, Telegram being encrypted as well, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah, exactly. When they get a 2FA prompt back, they pop that up on the fake website for the user to put
yeah,
the
send it
2FA
back.
in,
Brilliant.
and boom, boom.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is nothing special was happening here, wasn't it? Makes very clear.
No, it
This
was
was
very,
not
very
some
simple.
highly complex.
Nation
Um,
state kind of level of
yeah,
hacking. No.
no. Uh, very very standardized tool set, but what we're seeing here is very sophisticated execution, isn't it? That's the
It
key
is.
thing
It was
here.
very, very slick. I mean, I forwarded you one the other day, didn't I? I got a
Yeah.
message about my typical one. Your DHL parcel's been delayed. You have to pay for it to be redelivered. I don't know. I'm just out of curiosity. I knew it was a fake one, but I clicked it just to follow it through in a sandbox and see where it took me. And it was very, very slick. It was a carbon copy of DHL website. It was perfect English. Quite often, it's not. And it's a giveaway, but it was all very, very slickly done. But when they started asking for not just your card information, your bank, your sort code, your full address, I mean, everything needed to basically impersonate you. It was, a bit ridiculous. But I mean, the actual presentation itself, though, was very, very slick.
Yeah, very very slick indeed, which makes you wonder, doesn't it, that where's this coming
I
from?
could see people falling for it.
Yeah, very good, very good. So that again, so Octopus then is the latest threat. Yeah, more probably is going to come out of that. I suspect we haven't heard the last of this team or this group,
No,
and going forward. So, final call for us today then is small gaming tour. So we talked about the PS5 then. So this isn't perhaps a particularly good news story, as you said earlier in the open.
no.
Yeah, Sony are hiking the price of the PS5 in pretty much every market, aren't they? Bar the US
Apart
at
from
the
the
moment.
US, apart from the
Yeah.
US, yes. I mean, if it wasn't hard enough to actually get a PlayStation 5, because from what I understand, there are still major stock shortages. Yep, Sony's now upping the price and by some considerable margins in some countries. I mean, as you mentioned, the US won't be getting a price rise, but if you're over the border in Canada, it's only going up by 3%. So you're one of the lucky ones. UK and Australia going up by 6%, 7% in Mexico, the rest of Europe and China going up by 10%. But the one that gets me, if you're in Japan, the home of Sony, 21% rise.
It's got to be a massive component problem, isn't it? It's got to be.
Yeah, well, they're basically saying it's what they're saying is we're seeing high global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends impacting consumers and creating pressure on many industries. Based on these challenging economic conditions, Sony has made a difficult decision to increase the recommended retail price of PlayStation 5 in select markets, but it's basically the rest of the world other than the US, so I don't know what's selective about it.
No, no. I mean, so there you go. So the UK, for example, so the PS5 digital version, so that's no Blu-ray drive, was just £359.99. It's
Yeah,
now £389.99, and the PS5 with the Blu-ray is was £449 and is now £479. So 450 to 480. It's about £30 increase on that as well. So
yeah.
it's enough to, if you've been saving up on these for a while or trying to get hold of one, it's definitely going to have. And the scalpers then, will be hiking their prices, no doubt as
Of
well.
course they will,
Um,
especially when say it's short of stock anyway, so it's just affecting everyone.
it does, and I wonder whether the fact that the dollar is still quite strong. So I guess the fact that the euros, euro's gone down, the sterling rate is
Yep.
terrible. I wonder whether or not that's covering any loss in that with the inflation piece there.
It could be, but what I don't get is why it's gone up by 21% in Japan.
No, I don't get that. I don't get that.
Of all the countries, I would expect Japan not to go up, being the
But
home of
unless
Sony.
they're not manufacturing there.
Could well be, but I don't think they manufacture them in the US.
No, well, components maybe from the US, who knows? But it is puzzling, as you say. It is a quite an increase from that point of view. And if you're in Japan, I mean, I guess so. Home market, you'd have thought perhaps they should have been more widely available, but clearly that is not the case at all, is it?
No. But of
No.
course, this was a perfect opportunity for not only Microsoft, but Nintendo to pipe up and basically they won't be raising their prices.
That's very kind of them.
Well, I should think so for Nintendo. I mean, the Switch is 5+ years old. The tech inside of it was old when it was launched.
Yeah.
Us Nintendo don't sell at a loss anyway. So
No,
they're probably
never.
making
Don't
a
sell anything
very,
at a loss.
very nice margin right now on that Switch. So, yeah.
But Microsoft are very quick, weren't they, to make a statement saying, I quote, "We are constantly evaluating our business to offer our fans great gaming options. Our Xbox Series X suggested retail price remains at $299, £250, €300, and the Xbox Series X is $499, £450, and €500." Microsoft said in a statement to Windows Central website. So yeah, they've stuck two fingers up at Sony to say,
and they've got stock.
Yeah, that was the other thing. That's the other thing. It's like, well, we don't care that you put your price up. By the way, do you want an Xbox?
I'm surprised they didn't throw in a couple of months of Game Pass if you switch over from PlayStation.
I bet
you have to buy all the new games. There'll be a promo coming out soon.
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised on that. But yeah, so not a place to end this week's show. But yeah, that's probably the thing. So on that note, then we will be back next week for our Apple iPhone yearly special edition. Where we'll be talking you through the latest on iPhone 14, Watch Series 8, likely iOS 16. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say iPad, perhaps iPad OS 16. There are some rumors that could be delayed. I don't think we're going to see macOS Ventura because that has been delayed. The betas for that have been very slow compared to the iOS versions. I only had a new beta update drop yesterday. First one for a couple of weeks. Whereas iOS has obviously been weekly, as we know. But we'll be back with all of the news on that in our next week's show, once we have listened to the recording from Tim Apple and his chums. So you can find us at techrant.online for all of our show notes and all the information for everything we talk about this week and every other show. We're on Twitter at Weekly Tech Rant. And of course, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts from. So we welcome your feedback, your comments, your shares, and your likes. And of course, a special shout out to all of our subscribers and listeners who we have at the moment. So I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good evening all.